Hey, it's Birdman back for Birdman on the Mountain from Birdman Media. We're going to deliver you the rest of the story from Paul Berry with Stone Wealth Advisors.
And I did, and they said, okay, we want you to interview with the tribal council.
Right.
And I'd never
been in front of a tribal council, huh?
I'd never been in front of anything. I'd never interviewed for a job before. So, and then having to go to the next step of doing a trial, and I had no idea what the heck I was doing. So anyways, I went in there, and they had three other guys that interviewed and stuff. And the guy that was Neil Hall, and I don't know how long you've been up here. Neil had been up here a long time. He came to the White Mountains as the White Mountain Apache's tribal administrator.
Oh, okay.
And then just decided to stay up here. He had a glass shop up here in Pinetop and stuff years ago. Anyways, he told me that the tribe that the council would make a decision that afternoon, decide who they wanted to put on. So I was staying in their motel down there in White River, and he came over, I think he came by the motel late that afternoon and said, when do you want to go to work?
There you go.
and I did not like the heat. The heat bothered me a lot. You know, they think the tolerance for heat is bred into you. It is not.
No.
I mean, you can put a lot of clothes on to stay warm, but you can't take enough clothes off to stay cool.
This is true. Well, you get in the pool, right? Yeah.
So I had decided before that I would, if I could find something that I could move up here, because my dad always used to bring us up to fish at Big Lake,
right?
Or Flagstaff. I love the Flagstaff area, and my uncle actually was in the logging business over in Flag. And so I just decided to either play anybody who'd offer me, the opportunity to come up here, I would do that. And the tribe did, and so I came up and ran their construction company for a few years. Learned a whole lot about tribal politics. I discovered that everybody who lives on the reservation is a registered Democrat. But the politics on a reservation, there's probably 10 different loyalties and stuff that they...
Interesting, yeah.
So just being registered Democrats doesn't mean they all get along. They don't get along at all. It was an interesting time with them. And I walked in there and they showed me their operation, and I said, gee, many Christmas, most of your equipment is broke. It's parked here in the yard. Why don't you guys just sell it and get the heck out of the business? Because they'd already told me that they hadn't ever made money with their enterprise. And they said no, and I went back to the tribal council shortly after that and told them, why don't you just sell all of your equipment and get out of this business, find something else to do with your money. No, we want it for employment for the people. I said, well, that's a great idea. Only problem is that's not what you're doing right now. 95% of their employment came from the mountain.
Right.
They were all white guys. And they said, no, we want it for tribal member employment. I said, well, if that's what you want, I can probably do that. I'm not guaranteeing you we're going to make any money for a while, if ever. You never have in this enterprise anyway.
Right.
And they said, no, it's just, but we want it for employment and stuff. So I said, okay, fine. So when I started with the company, they were about 95%, non-Indian work there. Most of them came from up here on the mountain, and 5% tribal member or other Indian. And by the time I left, in a couple of years, I had reversed that. They were 95% tribal member employment and 5% other. And the interesting thing was that there were tribal elections coming up at the time. And Ronnie Lupi, and people have, I'm sure, have heard that name and stuff.
Yeah.
He was the current tribal chairman when I went to work for him, and had been for a very long time at that time. And he appointed the chairman of my board, who was Reno Johnson. He had appointed him to the board because he figured Reno wasn't going to do any better with this than he had, and he could hold it over Reno come election time and stuff like that. Well, I had turned it around, and Ronnie Lupi, we had a very large job going on. We were doing a housing project there that was about $8 million. And Ronnie realized also that I had turned out around the employment, and almost everybody that was working for me was a tribal member or another, belonged to another tribe, who was probably married to a tribal member down on the reservation. And he realized all of a sudden that there was 350 votes at my enterprise called DE that he wasn't going to get. And sure enough, I don't know why or anything else, and I never spoke Apache, but every time I'd go in during this election process, every time I go in to the restaurant and stuff down there, or any business and stuff down there, Ronnie or Reno were on the radio talking, and I'd hear my name all the time being used. And Ronnie was bad-mouthing me, and Reno was playing up the fact that
Yeah.
he was the chairman of my enterprise, and he was running this thing, and we were doing a great job and making money hand over fist and all this other stuff. So it turned out that was the first and only election that Ronnie ever lost. And the chairman of my enterprise became chairman of the tribe. And it was primarily because of the employment that
Right.
that DE had done, and did such a good job of hiring, showing them how to hire and work tribal, the workforce and
Right.
stuff down there. So that was kind of interesting, but I had enough of tribal politics after just a few years, and I lived up here, but left the tribe and decided I'm just going to go back out on my own again. So I did that, and so I was general engineering contractor up here for a lot of years. Did power plants, did roads, some wastewater, some waterworks and things like that, and did it pretty much all my life. The last stuff I did was in big stuff I did, and primarily, because after COVID and stuff, I didn't want to be in the business anymore. I'd been in it for a very long time, and decided to find something else to do, get out of it and stuff. But while I was, the last stuff I did was some very large solar plants in California, and the outfit that hired me. I'd worked for them a little bit as a sub for a couple of years, and they decided, first off, the project manager they had in California died.
Oh.
And I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but they said, "Do you want to run our operation in California?" I said, "Yeah, sure." And I said, "I already know it pretty well. I've worked for you guys for quite a while." And so anyways, I took over. They needed somebody. They were doing most of their project management stuff out of their home office, which was in Denver. And the owner that they were working for primarily in California was Con Edison, New York. They supply all the electricity and stuff in New York City, plus they supply all the steam and stuff. Every time you see a movie and steam comes shooting up out of a manhole or something like that, that's Con Ed's stuff. So anyways, Con Ed wanted somebody to be local, not that they didn't have to go through the home office with. They wanted somebody who make decisions immediately and be on site and stuff. So I took that over and built 4, 5, 6 of their solar projects over there. And when I first started, I had no idea what was going on, because I'm a subcontractor. They're not telling me, anything that's happening with their sites and stuff. Well, anyways, when I went to work for them and I walked into the office that they had down there in Alpa, California, I walked in and found out that GE had supplied the inverters on the job, and they weren't working. They failed. They had designed an old inverter that they had and increased its capacity so they could do this particular job. And so when I walked into this particular job, it was almost $3 million in liquidated damages, and was still not producing power.
Right.
So somebody before me had already had all of this stuff going on with GE. Anyways, I think they did 19 iterations before they finally had one that actually would work.
Right.
And so we put it in, and to make a long story short, we had $3 million in liquidated damages. GE signed a contract with us that had liquidated damages to us for $750,000. So I got the owner to accept the liquidated damages because it was not our fault. We were not plant was completely built. We just didn't have inverters that worked.
Right.
And on top of everything else, Con Ed was the one who specified that we use GE inverters.
Right.
So I kind of finessed that thing, and I got them to accept the liquidated damages that GE owed us, which was $750,000, and set aside our liquidated damages. We didn't owe any liquidated damages on the job. So I finished those 2 projects and did 3 others while I was over there, and I decided kind of having had done tribal politics, and now I'm playing politics with
corporate,
an owner and a corporate and everything else. I decided I didn't particularly like that much anyway. So and I'm getting older and everything. In fact, one of the Con Ed reps who would come over to the site every once in a while, we're out there talking and stuff and having a good time and stuff, and we were he was probably the next oldest guy on the job, and at the time I was 65, 66, and he said you're Methuselah. The guy just cracked me up. So anyways, I decided, what the hell? I'm getting older. I don't want to do this stuff anymore. So I went and spent the rest of the summer with my grandkids and stuff up in Colorado.
Awesome.
Then Larry introduced me to what I do now, which is Mats and Money.
Right.
And he gave me Mark Matson's book. I think you have Mark Matson's new book. This was his old book called Main Street Money. And I was like into the 5th or 6th chapter on this, and didn't say it out loud, but said it in my head, where the hell has this been all my life?
Right.
It's the only way really to invest your money, because it's based all on science.
Right.
And science that 3 Nobel Prize laureates actually developed.
Right.
So it's, and it's empirically tested. I mean, these guys, to get their Nobel Prizes and stuff, their work has to be empirically tested, even to qualify for the Nobel Prize and stuff.
Right.
So anyways, that's kind of where I decided I didn't like construction anymore, and figured that I might try something else. And my brother-in-law, Larry Stone, told me, why don't you give this a try? So I did.
And here we are.
Here we are.
At Stone Wealth.
That's exactly where we're at.
Awesome. So that's Paul Berry.
Pretty much.
Abbreviated.
Is that too much or not enough?
No, that's perfectly fine. So we're going to be talking to you ongoing, and we'll talk more into the Mats and Money stuff. And of course, anything that's financial is always opinion.
Yep.
And you can't say that anything is this is your opinion, that this is the best way to do that. That's the way that works.
That's
and that's the way it has to be legally.
My opinions are very strong.
I got that.
and I push them very hard. But yes, it's still my opinion.
It's an opinion that's based upon, of course, coaching.
Yes.
You did some coaching and found some fantastic things there, from dealing with people and people management, and then project management as well, and then dealing with the politics of things.
Yep.
So awesome. Hey, thank you very much for your time today. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
And this is Birdman for Birdman on the Mountain. Make sure you're checking us out, following, liking, all that stuff, and we'll see you soon.